Returning to the Ancient One's mission, and this is Chapter 10. I'll be there for you. Rory had not slept much. For hours, shaken and helpless, he had lain awake with the vision clear in his mind. He realized that this pain had been with him for a long time, buried. After tossing, unable to push away his sense of loss, he had gotten up. As he straightened the scattered papers and placed them in his briefcase, he knew that this pain had driven him into a career of helping and counseling. Toward morning, he must have dozed off because the phone woke him. He reached over. His digital clock read 6 a.m. Hello? He cleared his throat and waited. Hello, Rory? His police friend's voice sounded tired. So sorry to call you at home, but there was a rape last night, and I wondered if you might see the young woman. She's 23, extremely traumatized and not speaking. Her parents are very concerned. Why, sure, Tom. It happened last night, you say? Yeah, a college student on her way home from a late night at the campus university library. Don't usually get involved, but I thought of you right away, Tom responded. It's that soft heart that beats beneath the blues, my friend, Rory joked. Then he became the professional. Have her parents call my office. I'll tell Nora to schedule me some time. Rory liked Tom. He was a good man and had suggested the center to others. You may have to make a hospital call. The young woman is still there, Tom said. Oh, I'll do that. Thanks, Rory. Sometimes we win. This is one I hope we can turn around. And the soft-hearted police officer with the strength to walk in extremely rough places hung up. Nora had made arrangements for Rory to visit with the young woman's parents before he went to meet her. They were distraught, blamed themselves, and didn't know what to do. They were appreciative of his expertise and welcomed his offer to visit with their daughter. As he entered her hospital room, the young woman had turned her face toward the wall. Rory sat at her bed, and she was quiet, her eyes closed, her body lifeless. Rory gently spoke. Jerry, I'm Dr. James. There was no response. I'm a friend of Sergeant Palmer, the officer who helped you last night. I've talked with your parents. I would like to help you in any way I can. I do not know your pain. How can I? But I'm so sorry for what happened to you. I am here for you, whatever you want or need from me. Jerry heard his words. Her mind tightened. I will not relive last night, she thought. I will not tell anybody about those eyes and the ripping pain. Never trust this world. Rory's words went unanswered. There was something about her that was very familiar to him, and his heart went out to her. He sat quietly in his world as she was quiet in hers. He felt the remnants of last night's pain in his gut. He breathed into the tight muscle and sat for over an hour. Finally, he rose. He touched Jerry's small hand. I will be back. You are not alone, I promise. I will be here to help you walk through this experience. Jerry held back tears as he walked out of the room, and she heard, Myra, I promise from the depth of my soul to be there to help you through Earth's density. An old memory? A wish? Myra? Jerry stopped. Myra? Where had that name come from? Familiar, but why? Again, the name. Myra, I promise from the depth of my soul to be there to help you through Earth's density. Where did it come from? Jerry didn't remember and yet it calmed her heart. Chapter 11. Message in the Pain. Could she do this? Pam showered and changed into clean clothes. She was beginning to feel safe in this place they called the center. Was that smart? A soft knock at the door and Dr. James came in. "Hi," he said. "How about going to my office for our talk? Is that okay with you?" She smiled and nodded. They walked down the hall together and she thanked him for being there. "It has been so long since I have let anyone see me cry," she began. "Well, I appreciate your willingness to let me be there and to risk sharing your emotions," Rory responded. He opened his office door and stood aside as she went in. "This chair is the best in the room," he laughed and signaled for her. She sat down and he sat close by on a smaller sofa. He asked about her needs. Did she want to contact any family members? What professional help had she received? Did she know what she wanted next? She looked thoughtfully into his eyes. Rory felt a strange mixture of sorrow and gladness. It was like meeting a long-ago friend, seeing that the years had not been kind. He knew she had experienced pain. With difficulty, his professional mind moved that personal feeling aside. He wanted distance and clarity for this woman. For Pam, it was as if she weighed him, sensing something that eyes did not see. Then, making a decision, she took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and began. "Dr. James, my life has been anything but easy. I've often said it had been unjustly cruel. There were times when I cursed and raged at God for giving me breath, but there's been much that I have learned. I have seen visions that encouraged me not to die. I understood reasons for my situations, at least partially. I have shared with no one even a portion of what I've experienced. And yet, something tells me that you will listen. You are to know, and in the telling, I will continue my healing. My question to you is, are you willing to listen?" Rory heard her questions and with no hesitation answered, "Yes, I am willing." Pam leaned back, searching her thoughts. Where to start? She had never tried to put her experiences into words or even into a sequence. What would come first? With her eyes closed, Pam began. 10 years ago, I was a senior in high school. I loved school. I had a lot of friends. It was my place of safety away from a frightening life at home. No one knew that my stepfather was not the gentle, kind man that he presented to the community. 3 months of school remained before I was to graduate. I had planned to work at my part-time job during the summer and start college the following fall. I had been accepted at the perfect school for me. It was out of state, away from my home, with courses that excited me. Pam shifted in her chair. It was after school on a Friday evening. I had a lot of homework and was scheduled to work full shifts over the weekend. Mom, Dad, and I had eaten dinner. I cleared the table and helped Mom with the dishes. She was very quiet. Her silence was always a sign that Dad was in one of his moods. Mom had been with him since I was 2 and had learned to stay out of his way when she was on edge, as she called it. Pam's voice drifted with a memory. Then, catching herself, she came back to her story. The man I called Dad was my stepfather. My genetic father had left before I was born. My stepfather owned the local lumber yard. Everyone saw him as a pillar of the community, everyone's friend, someone they respected. But that is not what we saw at home. He had a cruel side. A recording studio has a dog. At home, he would explode at the slightest upset. It might be something a customer had done in the yard, orders that were difficult to fill, overtime to meet deadlines. Anything we did or didn't say could set him off. He would beat my mother where no one could see the bruises. She was afraid of him, made excuses, blamed herself, and pretended to the world that everything was great. He started hitting me when I was little. He told my mother that God made the man responsible for his family and that he would sure as hell make me know right from wrong. And so regularly for 12 years, I watched as he beat my mom. I learned to cower and hide from him, but I still got my share of trainings. When I turned 14, he became more verbally and physically abusive to me. As I matured, he made cruel remarks about my body, degraded my school accomplishments, and the abuse increased. My senior year was especially hard. I got a part-time job. That helped. It kept me away from home. Staying on top of my studies as well as my work schedule while my stepdad's abuse escalated took all the energy and focus I had. That Friday, Pam stopped, searching her thought, and then breathing deeply, went on. That Friday, he ranted through the house quite a lot. I had much homework and thought I could stay out of his way as usual, and after dinner and the dishes, I folded the dish towel and had gone to my room to study when I heard him stomping down the hall. I walked over and closed my door. The next thing I knew, he had crashed through my room, storming with his face blazing. Away from my desk by my arms, he threw me on the bed and shouted about being disrespectful and slamming the door in his face. He yelled, "You'll never do that to me again." He began to hit me. I rolled and twisted to move out from under him and get away from the blows. My stepdad was angry. That was not unusual. What happened next shocked me. I don't know exactly how it happened. He held my hands together. As I twisted, trying to get him off, he began yanking down my jeans. He snarled that he would teach me who was in charge and give me what... Pam choked at the knot in her throat. What I'd been asking for, she continued hoarsely. She cleared her throat and murmured, "And then he raped me." I screamed and fought, but it did no good. Pam sat with her eyes closed. There was a long silence. Dr. James sat quietly. "My life ended that night," she whispered. Rory reached over and touched her hand. After he left my room, I lay on my bed. I wanted to die. I clenched my fist and screamed at God. I had tried so hard and fought so long. For what? After they were asleep, I packed a few clothes, took what money I had saved, and left. I couldn't go to friends. My father was very respected in our town. I had no one who would believe me. I knew I would never go back home. I hated him. I hated God. And I was angry at my mother. Pam leaned forward and cried softly with the memory. It was no longer an ache for what had been. It was the pain and sorrow for what she had never had, a safe and loving family. I screamed that I would never be taken advantage of again, and from then on, I decided that what I would do and what I would not do to survive. I may even have been a fugitive. I didn't know if my parents were looking for me, if the police would be after me, and so I left our town. Over the next year, I found my way to other cities. I met people within the homeless community. I heard their stories and observed their lives. I questioned my life, and many times I wanted to die. You know the life on the streets. It was more a statement than a question. Rory nodded. Pam waited. Then she spoke again. My life made no sense. It was survival, existence, and for what? Others around me were the same. It seemed as if the weight of the poor, the sick, and the unhappy was increasing so rapidly that the world would soon fall into a bottomless pit, everything black, ugly, and dead. About 2 years ago, I felt that I was at the end. I absolutely didn't trust God, didn't trust people, but I had learned to trust a part of myself I called shadow. It was a voice I began hearing in my mind. Shadow had told me whom to watch out for, where to go next, and how to find food. This voice, it felt like a he, had reassured me when I felt alone. At first I thought it was just my mind playing with my own ideas, but somehow the voice I called Shadow felt different. I couldn't figure out how I would have the insights that came with it that were stronger than me. I didn't always listen, and I found that when I didn't, I was sorry I got into trouble or missed something. Pam sighed. Are you getting tired, Rory asked. Yeah, a little. Breathing deeply, Pam realized that she was more than a little tired. Actually, I'm very sleepy. I wonder if we could talk again tomorrow. I really appreciate that you're willing to listen. Just being able to put these past years into words has been so helpful. Thank you for that. I think I would like to lie down now and we can talk more another day. You've covered a lot of ground tonight, and yes, tomorrow would be a good time for me. What about we check in right after dinner? Rory suggested. Pam nodded as she rose and smiled as Dr. James stood and opened the door for her. If you need anything tonight, Rory said, ring the buzzer by your bed. She nodded as she turned and walked down the hall. He sat for a few minutes contemplating the day. First, Jerry, the young woman at the hospital, now Pam. Two young women in pain because of the actions of extremely aggressive and abusive men. Where would these two women's experiences take him?